Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, I present to you the real ripped grandpa 10, 10 grand kits with abs. So, hi, Shaun. It is a pleasure to meet you today. I'm very excited for a chat. Can you share a little bit about your journey, your background, and then where we can talk about the difference between reintroducing carbs or high carb, low carb, and keto and carnivore diets, and what are you doing right now to have abs at your? You said you're 55 right now.
I'm 54. I'll be 55. I'll be double nickels in March. So,
Let's go. All right. Give us
yeah.
give us the rundown.
So I think the one strategic advantage that I have in the fitness industry, because I think it's a war field now, because we're dodging rocks or trying to catch them and figuring out the thousand ways to skin this cat. And when I started in 1998 and I placed first runner-up grand champion in the Body for Life contest, I got ripped on 6 meals a day on a very high carb, low fat diet, right? Protein was always adequate. But then over the last 25 years, I've used every type of diet to get ripped, except keto. My keto and carnivore, my body just never responded good to them. And I don't know why. I have no clue why. I just didn't feel good. Now, I think there's applications for short-term interventions of those type of diets if the person is in the right spot, if they're a carb addict or something like that. But so once I placed first runner-up grand champion in Body for Life contest, I parlayed that into scaling a personal training studio, parlayed that into an online business. I've sold over 1 million carb cycling ebooks. I started a carb cycling program back in 2006, 2007, when my wife was forced into premature menopause through her colorectal treatments. She had cancer. And
Sorry to hear that.
that, yeah, but it's actually God always has a plan, right? So we look back in hindsight, it was life threatening at that point in time, but we caught it early and she's good now. But what that did is it taught me so much about females and their hormones and hormones in general. And that led me to the carb cycling land. And the reason I'm so biased to carb cycling, and I think there's a lot of ways you can skin this cat, don't get me wrong, very open minded, unlike a lot of other cults out there. But one thing that
Yep.
I realize is that carbs are not the enemy, and the reason I'm biased to it is because it's not a diet; it's more of a lifestyle. You don't have to eliminate any food groups. You can still have a little bit of booze sparingly. You can still have some cheat food and enjoy your pizza and your brownies. You
Yeah.
just have to do it strategically. And it's not that I am anti-diet, but I always say, what's the first three letters of the word diet?
Die. I
Exactly.
love it. I love it.
So, now I ended up being a C-level executive for two nine-figure health companies. One was a supplement company, so I saw a lot of inside stuff going on with marketing. So I have a
Uh-huh.
lot of inside knowledge from what the big corporations do to manipulate us with marketing. And I'll be completely transparent. I've had my moments in the past selling people what they want, like a pill, and then giving them what they need afterwards. Oh, by the way, here's your diet and exercise plan. But at my age now, as the Rip Grandpa, I'm here to be very transparent with people. My whole approach to fitness is how can you build a lifestyle of leanness, something you could use till you're 80, 90, 100 years old if you want. Because at the end of the day, the king of all diets is adherence.
Love that. Perfect. Okay. So, let's talk a little bit about your current lifestyle. How are you training right now? How is your diet? The way that I discovered you is, I don't know how you popped up on my feed. So they were, I guess, attacking you. Some carnivore cultists were attacking you for, oh my gosh, talking about the benefits of reintroducing carbs and how that's actually helping you have abs.
Well, I think first, because I've done carb cycling for years or variations of it,
Hmm.
I've used and I continue to use variations of intermittent fasting and whether it's zone or whether it's a low carb, whether it's Mediterranean keto, even vegan, plant-based, all that stuff. Um, it ends up being a stressor, right? At the end of the day, it ends up being a stressor. And so
Hmm.
for me personally, how do I take an approach that I can use forever? And so personally for me, what I do Monday through Friday is I strategically keep my body in a deficit.
Hmm.
And I use this through a higher carb approach right now. And I use a combination of a little bit of intermittent fasting sparingly because anything done in excess, I think the poison is always in the dose, no
Uh-huh.
matter what diet it is.
Hmm.
And then I combine that with making sure that I get adequate protein. And so if carbs are higher, That protein amount does not need to be nearly as high because most people don't realize how basically carbs in general, the more you have in your diet, and of course we're talking about healthy carbs, the less protein that your body actually needs because it reduces amino acid
Yep.
degradation, right?
Yep.
It slows protein turnover, and carbs are very muscle sparing. So
Yep.
at the end of the day, as long as you're in deficit, you're getting adequate protein. Low carb or high carb doesn't matter. I mean, we talk about the diabetic study where they took two groups of diabetics. One was on high carb, one was on low carb. Calories and protein were equal. I think that's
Yeah.
important context. And the results were exactly the same. Blood markers, cholesterol,
Yep.
glucose,
Yep.
weight loss, blood pressure, all of it, right? So
Yep.
I take a more balanced approach. I customize it to the individual when I'm working with clients. And me personally, like I've been having a lot of success, believe it or not, with sugar fasting lately. And it's
Mm.
not something that I push on people or recommend unless they're experienced and their body's in the right spot to use it.
Right.
But
Right.
I always do stuff on myself first and become a guinea pig first before I would ever recommend it. But
Right.
it does definitely drive home the point that sugar is not the enemy. And if we look at sugar intake over the last 20 years in America, it has declined rapidly.
Yeah.
And I'm not defending processed sugar. The reason most sugar is so unhealthy is because it comes with fats. And all the desserts and stuff like that are very fatty. But when you isolate sugar, it has a completely different metabolic effect. We could talk more about that. But at the end of the day, sugar is not the enemy. And if you look at sugar intake in general, it's been declining rapidly. And I
Yep.
think it's when you combine it with oils.
Yep.
PUFAs especially, but oils in general. And if we look at a chart of oil intake over the last 20 years in America, it's the exact opposite of sugar. It's a hockey stick on the map going straight up. And so we start mixing these two fuel sources together, and they're kind
Yeah.
of antagonists. We're fighting against our body's systems. And
Yes.
so one of the main rules that I follow is that when fats are up, carbs are down. And when carbs are up, fats are down. Protein always. And of course, protein is going to be higher on the lower carb days. And it's
Yeah.
going to be lower on the high carb days because you don't need as much protein on those days. But I like about the high carb approach is that you can eat so much more food
Yeah.
because of the
Volume.
volume, right? The volume of it. So you look
Yeah.
at it like a plate of squash or even a plate of rice, even, which is
Yeah.
very starch condensed, very calorie condensed, but nothing compared to oils and fats
Yep.
at all. And this has happened to me over and over again when people will come to me. And I think that keto and carnivore, whether you follow them or not, it has created more awareness to friendly fats in general. And I think because of that, friendly fats start sneaking into people's plans.
Mm-hmm.
Avocados, olive oil, very healthy, obviously, right? Avocado oil, nuts, seeds, nut butters, these fatty foods that are healthy for us and they're friendly fats. But when a guy comes to me and he's having 3 avocados a day, 6 or 7 tablespoons of olive oil, and he's snacking on nuts and seeds between meals, I know he's getting about 800 calories too much every single day because it's a math equation.
Yep.
And when you do the math, and
Yep.
fats yield 9 calories per gram,
Yep.
protein only yields 4.
Yep.
And so it is a math equation, regardless of how healthy these fats are.
Yep.
If you're not burning off more than you're taking in, the
That's
scale's
the
not
thing.
going to move down, right? So no matter how healthy you're eating, if you're eating too many calories, you're still going to gain weight. You're not going to lose body fat.
Right. And your health is going to decline. As you're gaining weight, fat doesn't just sit there on your frame doing nothing. It's an active endocrine organ that's actively secreting inflammatory molecules into your blood. And so, with every unnecessary extra fat cell on your body, that's additional inflammation. That's going to mess up your hormones. That's going to mess up everything. So, this idea that, oh, don't worry too much about the weight. It's like, no, it's probably the single strongest determinant of your health is how much unnecessary body fat you have on you. And so the leaner you get, no matter which approach you take, you're simply going to get healthier. And I would add also, by the way, it's like there's nothing wrong with like even high fat, high carbs. Like I eat all the fats, I eat all the carbs, and I eat all the proteins. But it's because I've gotten my metabolism to a fast enough pace and I'm running and I'm lifting weights. So currently my maintenance calories are 3,200 calories. How am I going to fit 3,200 calories a day? If I have to eat all the foods, all the fuel. So you have to earn it. If you want that, you got to earn it.
Love it. Love it. I couldn't agree more, especially on the body fat angle. There's a guy out there, Cole Robinson, who'll scream at the keto and carnivore community about
The
about how
snake
you
diet
can
guy.
eat, yeah, you can eat Twinkies, and the Twinkie diet proved it. Mark Hobb was a professor, and he went on a Twinkie convenience store diet. Now he did have a protein shake every day, So, full transparency there, right? Giving context, I think, is very important. But at the end of the day, this guy ate nothing but junk food. And because he was in a deficit and got adequate protein intake, he lost over 20, almost 30 pounds, I think. And his blood work was incredible afterwards because he got rid of the most dangerous thing in his life, and that was belly fat.
Exactly, exactly. And visceral fat goes away as you lose weight. Yep.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, this idea like it's okay that you're overweight. And there's this concept within the carnivore community that's very popular. I don't know how it originated or from where, but I know a lot of people do that, the priming protocol, where they're eating like sticks of butter every day and they're told to consume as many foods, as many calories as possible until they're Thanksgiving stuffed, that level 3 times a day. So people are gaining weight. I remember I had a client, she gained 40 pounds. She was tall, but still 40 pounds in 2 months on priming. It took us a whole year to peel that off, you know? It was insane. And so to do that and gain, if you're gaining weight on carnivore, you're actually messing up your health. You're not getting any healthier, even if you think this is like pristine foods. The Twinkie diet is getting you healthier than the priming diet that's actually leading to weight gain.
You can use, there's so many examples, and I love that you say that because we could talk about the potato diet. The guy from Chris Voigt from the Washington State Potato Commission. He was the head of the potato commission. They removed potatoes from the school lunch program. He got pissed off, so he protested eating nothing but 20 potatoes a day for 60 days. His before and after blood work was incredible, and he lost 22 pounds. Eating nothing but 20 potatoes a day. Now, a lot of people, well, yeah, if you do the math, he was probably in a deficit. Well, yeah, he probably was, but it goes to prove the point that carbs don't make you fat. And then you can segue that right into Okinawa. 70% sweet potatoes and white rice. They live longer, have less disease than the rest of the world, and they're thinner than the rest of the world. And of course, we're
Exactly.
destroying that with fast food going up in their cities everywhere. But
Right.
indigenous tribes, we can go into that as well,
The
that are very
Tsimani
high.
tribe in
Right,
Bolivia, all,
right.
it's all carbs, you know? It's, yeah,
Exactly. And they're
yeah,
lean and healthy and they have no metabolic disease. And of course, all of this has to do with what is the metabolic flexibility of your body when you start something. I mean, there's a lot of people who will come to me who are carb addicts and they love processed carbs out of a box and their body is hooked on that sugar and fat combination. So if you isolate sugar the right way and you keep the fat lower, you can still keep carbs in their diet. But my personal preference is honestly, I will put them on a low carb intervention for 1 week.
right.
It'll still be sky high protein. It's not keto. We'll keep fats moderate to moderately high because we need the energy from those fats because we're going to deplete glycogen, which is stored
Mm,
energy in your muscle and liver tissue. In your body, I've just found out over the years that your body's ability to deplete and replenish that glycogen, which is stored carbohydrates and energy, makes you a more efficient fat burner. It makes you more metabolically flexible. So there are applications for short-term low carb, keto, carnivore type approaches to get somebody in the spot where they're more fat adapted, where now we can bring carbs back into their diet, make them more metabolically flexible long term, give them something they can use until they die, right? And at the same time, you got the short term benefits of those diets. I just don't think they're realistic as a lifestyle. And I think this is slowly coming out. And the big problem with this, as you know, Dr. Sarah, is that the second somebody wants to come out of the closet and admit they're gaining weight or feel like crap, they get attacked because it's a cult. I mean, I remember back in the day, it was like 10 years ago, there was a lady who was a vegan. She was the huge head of the vegan organization. And she was hiding in the closet. She was losing her hair.
yeah,
Her nails were brittle. And her doctor told her that she was going to die of deficiencies. And she came out of the closet and brutally got attacked. She even got death threats because
wow,
she was speaking
yeah.
against the cult, the vegan and the vegetarian cult. Again, I'm not bashing those diets and saying they can't work and there's no applications for them, but are you really going to be able to eliminate these food groups for the rest of your life?
Right, right. And we're seeing, I mean, like I've coached enough carnivores now for enough years that the verdict is in. Long-term keto and especially carnivore diets is literally destroying people's metabolism. Their thyroid function is plummeting. They're losing their hair, eyebrows, their nails are brittle, eyelashes, they're losing that, their energy, their zest for life. That's not health. The single strongest determinant for how long and how healthy you're gonna live is the speed of your metabolism, your mitochondrial health. And now what's happening, your fasted blood glucose on a long enough carnivore diet, your fasted blood glucose is trending upwards, your HbA1c is trending upwards, baseline cortisol is going up, your hormones are getting shot, your metabolism is getting destroyed, you're not recovering as well. If you're working out, you're more prone to injuries. It's like leaky gut. Now it got better initially, now it's going to get worse under the stress, chronic stress you're under. So to say that all this information is irrelevant, or just not even wanting to look at it or admit it is happening, so much gaslighting happening towards people who are reporting these symptoms. I mean, not only do I see these people, I see their labs, I see their symptoms. It's real and it's happening. I don't understand this denial.
Well, what happens too, I think, Dr. Sarah, with what you're saying, is that people are in it 4 to 6, maybe 8 weeks, and they're like, bullshit, I feel amazing, blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, you've been abusing carbs your entire life, eating crap, not getting adequate protein. Now, for the first time in your life, you're getting adequate protein. Let's take note of that. Okay. So that's one thing keto and carnivore will cover. And I would argue that everybody doing keto is not doing keto. They're just doing more of a carnivore or a high protein diet, because true keto is 73% fats. What are you eating? Bacon and butter all day long? No, you're eating a higher protein diet, right? And I think that's what happens with a lot of people. And then another misleading measurement is the fact that our bodies hold almost 3 grams of water for every gram of carb that you eat. And so it's very easy to blame carbs when you step on and off the scale because of the weight fluctuations, which if you're storing and depleting water inside muscle and liver tissue, which a metabolically flexible, healthy metabolism will do, then you're going to see these fluctuations, and you blame carbs because of that water retention when it's really not carbs. This is why people get so excited on a low carb diet. They drop 5 to 7 pounds of water the first week. It might be 1 or 2 pounds of fat, but 80-90% of it is water weight, which is okay, because now we're getting your body in a position where it can find where stored fat is at. Exactly. But you need to understand that it is mostly water. And so I think that context is super important. And the other thing that you were slightly touching on is the fact that when you eliminate glucose from your diet, your body needs glucose to convert that T4 to that T3, right? So the active form of the thyroid hormones your body's cells can receive and use. And every cell in your body has a receptor for thyroid hormones.
Yes.
On top of that, when you eliminate glucose, people go into a carnivore or keto type of diet trying to prevent insulin resistance. That's the goal. But when you do it for extended periods, the exact opposite happens.
And isn't it ironic?
Right. Research proves it, that when you eliminate glucose for extended periods of time and you try to bring it back in, you have made your cells and tissues now insensitive to glucose. Yes. And of course, now your body starts to reject them initially because you're bringing that back in. They can also spill over and create water weight. And so now you're blaming carbs again as the enemy, when really you avoiding the carbs is what caused all these symptoms.
Exactly. Even if they don't reintroduce carbs, just being on a long-term carnivore diet, you're going to start seeing worse off blood sugar regulation. You're going to start seeing way higher glycation because your fasted blood glucose is trending upwards and your HbA1c is going up.
Yeah. Well, and I think and I can't remember the name of the ingredient or the substance, but Jay Feldman was talking about this, and I'm going to dive deeper into it and learn more about it. But being on a keto or carnivore can be 10 times more glycating than sugar.
Exactly.
Because of the inflammatory markers that can be released. And you probably know more about that than I do, but it does not surprise me.
Exactly. Isn't it funny? Because like the glycation aspect is a commonly leveraged argument for why we need to be avoiding fructose and glucose, when in fact it ends up that keto and carnivore diets are far, far more glycating when you actually look at the data.
Correct.
Yeah, right. That's funny. Okay. So carbs are not the enemy. And I fell into this trap for a decade, truly believing that insulin is the reason why it's harder for people to lose weight or maintain their weight loss. And so like the easiest way to maintain a fit body and a healthy body is to shun carbs. And it was really only after I took it to the nth extreme, where it's like carnivore harder, like remove anything, like even dairy, all that stuff. Like the harder you carnivore, the better the results you're gonna get. And it was only really after having all this data, because I track everything for years. I have spreadsheets for years. I track the time I wake up, the time I go to sleep, how many hours I got of sleep, bowel movement, yes or no per day, my fasted scale weight, my body composition. I've been a diligent tracker. So it was only until I took it to the extreme and I still was not getting the results that I wanted, that, okay, I sat down and I analyzed the years worth of data. And that's how I discovered it had nothing, like the only thing that really leads to a leaner physique and more muscle and a better mental health, better health, everything. The only thing that drives the needle was, for me, setting PRs, being able to progress in the gym. And so, okay, great. The data was very clear for years on end, every single week, every single month. It's only when I've set PRs that you really move the needle. So, okay, how do we set PRs the best way? You need to fuel the muscle. You need to give the body the fuel it requires to advance in its program. And carbohydrates are going to allow you to set PRs the fastest, the personal records, and really get faster and stronger in the gym. And that's going to boost your thyroid function. And even if you, let's say, forget about working out, just reintroducing carbs is actually going to boost your thyroid function. Now, I don't recommend people just reintroduce carbs and not also prioritize exercise. I think, the vast majority of people, if they just prioritize their workouts, they almost like 99% of the problems in their life will go away, because there's nothing that is not improved with a stronger, more resilient body. But that's for me how it happened. That's for me. It was like, oh my gosh, I've been like so scared of carbs, and I should have analyzed the data. It was just so many years of data that it was like a humongous task that I had to undertake. But when I finally did it, that's really where I found this massive shift in everything I thought I knew, and all the research and the way you interpret the research changed.
Was there one tipping point for you where that happened, Sarah? Was there one tipping point? Because you mentioned a lot of things there. Was there one day or one moment or one
Yes.
tipping point?
Yes, we went on a trip, and I was doing like the craziest, cleanest carnivore diet for months. And I got shredded. Don't get me wrong, I got
Mhm.
shredded. But the rebound from that, because we went on a trip and it was like the slightest additional stress you introduce to that equation and you're
Mhm.
off the rails. I physically could not even, like, we just landed and we needed to go and do things. And I'm like, I can't, I have no energy. Like, I cannot do anything. I just want to go to the hotel and sleep. So, and my hubby's like, no, no, we want to take advantage. We want to do things. And so I was like, okay, fine. And that was like when I broke it and I had Oreo cookies and coffee. And the moment I deviated from the strict, clean carnivore, it was like the rebound was crazy. It was like I could not stop having every second your body wanting it, because my body weight set point, I was shredded, but I didn't do it. I didn't earn it the right way. I did not actually lower my body weight set point by actually adding muscle and getting fitter. So there was a mismatch between my body weight and my muscle mass. And you know what happens when there's that mismatch? Your body slows down its metabolism, right? And then it forces you to regain that muscle mass that you lost. And so the way it does that is just triggering cravings, and all like the floodgates were open and I rebounded so bad. And that was when I was like, okay, I need to really analyze all this data and figure out what the hell is going on here. And that was the turning
Tipping
point.
point. Got it. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting when you have that moment, and it goes back to, talking about your metabolism and metabolic slowdown. When you reduce calories, regardless of what diet you follow, even if you're carb cycling or high carb, low fat, or keto or carnivore, when you're in a deficit for extended periods of times, you do down regulate leptin and thyroid production. Well, those two things work together synergistically. They talk to each other in the body and help regulate your metabolic rate. So that adaptation that happens, that metabolic slowdown, the number one and number two thing that are going to help you, I guess, battle against that is making sure you're getting adequate protein and lifting weights, right? Because gaining muscle is the only thing that's going to keep your metabolic rate going. And of course, without adequate protein, now you're losing weight, but you don't know, is it the right kind of weight? Is it water? Is it fat? or is it muscle? And if protein's not high enough, and
Yeah.
of course, protein can be customized based on other macros that are in the diet, like carbs, right? Stuff like
Yeah.
that. But at the end of the day, it goes back to what you said is that muscle is metabolism and it's the number one predictor of longevity along with body fat, right? And so
Yes.
if you want to use a keto or a carnivore type of approach, I think it's important to get educated and begin with the end in mind and come up with a plan ahead of time where it's going to be a short-term intervention, which is sometimes necessary for somebody who's completely metabolically inflexible and a carb addict.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what happens is people are afraid to change because they get into this world, they get brainwashed by the charlatans out there saying that you can't eat a banana without causing fatty liver. And now they're a carbophobe. And this is what happens to people. And it's really unfortunate. I mean, do you really think God made fruit and root vegetables to kill us dead? I mean,
Right.
honestly, I mean, it's just silly. And the hardcore carnivore guys out there, the hardcore keto guys, will swear up and down that fruit causes fatty liver. I mean, have you ever seen a fruitarian? There's not
That's
an ounce of fat on them. And
no.
it's something I would never recommend is being a fruitarian, but it goes to prove the point. They don't have fatty liver because they don't have any fat on their body and they don't really have any fat in their diet. So how can you have fatty liver when there's no fat on your body to store
Right.
in your liver and there's no fat in your diet to store in your liver?
No, it's just it's wild. It's social media. It's like this double-edged sword. It's fantastic that you no longer have a gatekeeper that would determine whether your message can reach the masses or not. But on the flip side, now people are confusing confidence for competence. As long as somebody is speaking confidently about anything, they could literally convince you of anything, and people just they
They drink the
believe it.
Kool-Aid. They drink the Kool-Aid.
They drink the
They do.
Kool-Aid.
And there's a huge difference between correlation and causation. And I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't know how to discern that difference. And I think that, it's our job as fitness pros to identify and not be biased to any one way and look at a starting point of an individual, customize a plan for them, knowing that we can work into something that's an actual lifestyle down the road versus trying to like avoid carbs the rest of your life or even
Yeah.
trying to, even when I do a very high carb, low fat diet, by the time the weekend hits, I'm ready for bacon and eggs. And
Right.
so I'll have a higher fat carb deplete day, a lower carb, higher fat day to fill in the missing gaps of any potential nutrient deficiencies
Yeah.
and just give my body a little shock to the system and keep it responding to the other days of the week when I have carbs. And then another thing that you touched on that I think is important to note is that carb intake really should be customized according to activity level. And so if somebody's not lifting weights or doing HIIT or cardio or getting their steps every day, their metabolic needs and hormonal needs and demands are going to be less for those
Yes.
carbs. Now, I still recommend that you carb load a little bit every weekend because of the thyroid hormones, the leptin, the metabolic rate balance, maybe, a little bit of balance helps, right? So again, it goes back to well, what's the best diet to follow? Well, it's one that you could adhere to
Yes.
unless you start getting, I mean, if you're still following a diet where you're at a plateau, you're stuck in Stall City, or you're gaining weight, well, that's an indication you probably need to switch things up. So,
Yes.
somebody who's in extended deficit for weeks on end, I've watched this with my wife happen with my wife because we wanted to pound a square into the circle, right?
Yeah.
Forcing her low carb, low carb. Just keep the carbs low, keep the carbs low. And what I discovered is that when we added the carbs back in, the scale started moving down and she felt 1,000 times better. Her performance and her workouts went up. And we can cite dozens of side-by-side studies, whether it's short-term or long-term periods of keto versus carb. The carb athlete is going to outperform the keto athlete
Every time.
at least 90% of the time. There might
Yes.
be a 5 to 10% exception
Way
to the
more.
rule.
I'd say
Right.
99% of the
Yeah.
time. That's why you
Yeah.
don't see Olympians on keto or carnivore.
Right. Right.
People that are actually winning. And that's a mirror for your performance in every other area of life, right? Because look at the extremes at the Olympic level, athletic performers, they're using the carbs, they're carb loading. The reason why we're setting even better records and pushing human limits even further is because just this recent study came out and showed that now they've learned how to carb load and be able to ingest 120 grams of carbohydrate in 1 hour, whereas in the past we thought only 60 to 80 grams of carbs per hour of working out. was like maxing out and giving you competitive edge. And now the folks that have figured out how to even push it to 120 grams per hour are outperforming and setting records. And so it is a competitive edge. And that means also when you're competing better and better physically, it means your brain is also getting at a higher and higher level of performance. It means your verbal fluency, your confidence, your productivity, and your income is tracking along with it. And I've seen it. I mean, just this year alone, my income, my productivity, my energy, my confidence is just blown like turbocharged. It is insane. It is the foundation for life, truly. Going at it from a performance perspective. How can I help you become a peak performer? That's how you're going to be your leanest, your strongest, your healthiest, your happiest, your richest. Your relationships are going to also be turbocharged because people sense energy, they sense your body language. And so even the people around you and very close to you, the way that they sense that, they you don't even have to tell them how to treat you. They just naturally adapt because now they've realized the standards are getting higher.
It's your identity, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
It's
You know, I want to mention something about the mitochondria too, because cancer and mitochondria and all that stuff. And I interviewed Dr. Thomas Seyfried, who, does all the research on ketogenic dieting for cancer. And that's fantastic and all that. That's great. But that's also used for everybody. It's like, oh, you don't want to eat carbs. You want to maintain ketosis all the time because that's going to increase mitochondria by 400%. First of all, it was only one study and done in rodents that showed that number. Human
of
data
course.
showed, yeah, the study on human data showed that ketosis can only increase it really by like 50% only. That's the only data we have. I agree, boosting mitochondrial health and function is fantastic. But even if, hypothetically, it turns out that even in humans, it's a 400% increase in mitochondria. Well, a carb-fueled athlete that's pushing the limits and getting stronger and stronger and stronger physically is going to have an infinitely stronger, higher, better quality mitochondria than just the 400%. You're always going to be limited with ketosis. Whereas as you can get better with working out, especially with cardio that truly boosts your mitochondrial numbers and quality and efficiency, there is no limit to how much stronger that mitochondrial health is going to be. And so if you really want to prevent cancer, why not go way above the just hypothetical 400% improvement when ketosis?
Yeah, it goes back to your ATP production, right? The more ATP you can produce, the healthier your mitochondria are because they produce the ATP. They help produce it. So it all
Yep.
comes back. It all comes back to that. I think it's important because you're talking a lot about athletes. If we talk about people, everyday people, in my world, I'm 54, right? So I'm dealing with men over 50 and 60 and women. My wife's 11 years older than me. And I think, going back to what you said is understanding that, timing I like to talk about outcomes versus mechanisms, right? So when we talk about outcomes, we talk about the diabetic study and we talk about proof like Okinawa's, like the all potato diet, things like this that we can kind of confirm real world anecdotally, right? And then we can look at the research like the diabetic study. But if we talk about things like timing your carbs, okay, it's not mandatory that you have to time your carbs right, but it's a good mechanism to consider. Like for example, when you eat carbs in the post-workout window, okay, they have a 73% higher DIT, diet-induced thermogenesis, when they're combined with protein within 75 minutes after the workout. Okay.
Mhm,
Now, one
mhm.
particular study showed, and this is not conclusive, it's only one study. Anybody can cherry pick a study, but it did show that the glycogen replenishment, in other words, your body's ability to reabsorb glycogen in muscle and liver tissue, declines almost 50% at about the 75 to 90-minute mark
Yep.
post workout. So it is in your best interest after the workout, if you're consuming carbs, which I highly recommend if you're working out, that is a great time to do it with protein. Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean that you can't get great results not doing that, but it's a mechanism to consider. And
Right.
so I think at the end, if we look at dieting in general, you have to find some levers that you can pull, mechanisms that you can pull that will
Mhm.
work for you. And one thing that's always worked very well for me is eating my first and my last meal close to the same time every day, whether I'm fasting or I'm not fasting, whether it's a 12-hour fast, whether it's a 16-hour fast. Because what happens is it's called hormonal entrainment. So if you eat your first and your last meal close to the same time, not exact, right? Within a 1 to 2 hour window, morning and night, you're going to find that you're going to get better control of hunger and cravings because you're going to train your ghrelin to pulse at those times that you eat first and last every single day. Now, this is only one mechanism out of many that we can talk about. I like to talk about food pairing and food combining as well. Again, if
Hmm.
I'm going to eat a ribeye and make a choice to eat a ribeye, which I rarely do, but I will do it, I'm just going to avoid the carbs and the starches for that meal, and I'm going to enjoy my ribeye.
Yes.
But if I'm carbing up or I want my carbs, I'm going to pick the leaner cut of meat.
I hope you're enjoying this podcast. If you want support learning how to reintroduce smart carbs, the progression, what to expect, and how to feel safe doing it, make sure you reach out for coaching at drsarahzaldivar.com/coaching. You can use code YouTube to get 50% off within the next 48 hours. Also, if you are interested in getting fit, healthy, achieving this high, the Adderall effect that I always talk about, so that you literally become limitless, then also make sure you reach out for coaching. And if you are not on my newsletter, make sure you're signed up. It's free at drsarahzaldivar.com/newsletter. Now back to the podcast. Yep.
Filet, for example, is only going to have 400 calories. A ribeye is going to have about 12 to 1300. So now I've already cut 700 calories out just by doing that. Now, if we go to white meat, even leaner cuts, it's even more pronounced. And so little mechanisms like this over time can make a big deal. And most people don't realize that if you add 300 calories a day to your diet, that's 31 pounds a year on your body. And so these little mechanisms, or I should say little hinges, can end up moving big doors.
But
But I do have a framework that I'd like to share that you can use no matter what diet you follow. And I call it a QUESP framework, CWESP. So I always say it's like going on a quest. It's just spelled differently. And it's calorie deficit, water, exercise, sleep, and protein.
mm,
Now, obviously, we can dive deep into each one of those pillars, and I'm biased to mechanisms within, especially the exercise portion of that. But if you're in a calorie deficit, if you get adequate water, if you're getting adequate exercise, prioritizing strength training, right? You're getting adequate sleep and adequate protein, any diet can work, okay? Until it doesn't.
exactly. Here's the biggest issue. You were talking about calories and calorie deficits, and it's so wild to me that it's actually the easiest way to get results because it gives you so much flexibility. But it's the one thing that a lot of, unfortunately, carnivore followers have been brainwashed into believing that that calories don't matter. It's like you can't even mention the C word. And and it's like it's almost as if they keep them
Trust me, I've gotten the
dependent.
hate.
Right, right. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to tell me how that happened because I mean, if you've been carb cycling for a while, it's not like this is new news, right? Like, why now are you being attacked? Is everybody being attacked who's talking about carbs right now?
I think it's just because I am more proactively commenting on those type of posts now because I want to share the truth.
Mm,
I want to share the truth, man. People are
yeah,
being bullshitted by these guys, right?
yeah,
And I mean, there's debunkers out there like Jay Feldman. He's one of the best, and he's such a quiet little, you know, nice guy.
he
You
is.
know, like if he got put on Joe Rogan against a carnivore guy, he'd probably get eaten alive because
And
he,
that's what it is. It's
yes,
the
bullying.
confidence. It's the bull. It's exactly. It just so happened there's a bunch of carnivore believers that have a strong character, very confident. Part of it is just being born male. When you're just being born male, you naturally have a competitive edge because when you're born a female, ever since you're born, I don't know, do you have daughters or granddaughters?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so they're going to deal with that and you can help them with that.
Mhm.
I've coined a term. It's called the penile incompetence syndrome. What is the penile incompetence syndrome?
PIS.
Yes, it does come from the word
Yes.
peanut. Yes, exactly. It's like you have, let's say your grandson and your granddaughter, they're born into this world. The grandson is gonna have a much easier way. Everybody is like, you're amazing, you're a boy. The granddaughter, yes, maybe also you're amazing and we love you, but at the same time, she's going to be bombarded from messaging in movies, in songs, and even just the workplace, everywhere. misogynistic microaggressions, because now misogyny is like everybody agrees it's a bad thing, right? But the subtleties of that has not gone away. And so you're still getting bombarded with subtle messaging 24/7 that your worth is like you struggle to even be respected just because you're a girl, you know? And so it's like, oh, you're a scientist. Wow. Like that's, we're not really used to strong women just yet, because it's only been very few generations. I mean, just in the 1970s, women weren't allowed to be in marathons. They weren't allowed to have a mortgage by themselves or have a credit card. Like this is very recent stuff. It takes a while for this subconscious conditioning to go away. So your granddaughter is going to grow up being exposed to that, and every single time there's a misogynistic microaggression, it's going to chip away very quietly, very slowly. She won't even know it's happening at her confidence. So now your grandson and your granddaughter are going to enter the workforce. Your grandson's confidence is at an all-time high, and your granddaughter is going to be double and triple and quadruple checking her facts before she even says something, because her confidence has been destroyed. And so now you have to be 100 times more competent, work 100 times harder to be able to grow that confidence, to match the confidence of the grandson. And so this is what happens, why we have a lot more alphas, or people, I wouldn't even call that alpha because I don't consider that to be an alpha, but somebody who can naturally feel the confidence because it has not been destroyed. And so now you have a situation where a lot of the carnivore influencers that are very, very famous, that's their only thing that they're running on, because clearly the competence is not there, nor is there a willingness to even grow the skills or even learn more. Like there's no interest in doing that, because why grow their competence where they can naturally keep growing their brand and their messaging, and they keep growing without having to ever really give accurate information, because nobody is questioning that, because oh, they seem so confident, they must be right. This
They
is
put you in
yeah.
a box too. So then they put you in this box and like this is where you belong in this box, and anything outside this box you need to reject. And that's what I experienced more than anything with these guys. And I can definitely hear what you're saying about the female aspect of this, and thank you for sharing that because it makes me think, about. I mean, I pride myself on being the world's best papa, so I take that stuff to heart. And I want my daughter's 33. She's got backbone. Nobody's messing with her. I'm not worried about her. But my granddaughter's, right? It's a different story, and it's something that you bring up, and I'm glad that you bring it up. And you know what, Sarah, I think that when they gravitate towards like a keto or a carnivore community, now it's almost like they feel like they belong somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
that
And
too.
then they do it, they get great results, and then of course they keep doing it, and then bad things start to happen, and now they're stuck in this box, and they're afraid to get out of this box. And if they say anything, I mean, I saw Dr. Chafee, that one girl that was his main girl, when she came out of the closet about all her issues with her carnivore, the first thing that they did is zero in on her alcohol on the counter and basically accuse her of drinking and lying about her program because she was not saying positive things about their narrative.
That
And
was such
you
an
know,
awful thing. That's misogyny right there. That's bullying
yep.
and misogyny right there. I'll tell you a story later on, off the air, about uh, the misogynistic tendencies that I notice. But sometimes it's like when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time. If you have a sense that that person is misogynistic or is a bully, believe your gut instinct, because they will show their true colors anyway eventually. So it's better to catch it early. But yeah, what they did to Dr. Lisa Wiederman, and showing, like, they zoomed in on that, the fact that there's alcohol on her kitchen counter, and it's like, but also I've talked to Dr. Wiederman, and I know she doesn't even respond to my DM, because like, what are you doing? You gotta fight back. They will not respect you. When you let them treat you like that, they lose respect for you. Humans, at the end of the day, we are an animal. Yeah, primates, but we're still animals, and so we still only respond to strength and to courage. And so when you let Bart K and when you let those people do this to you and you act like it's okay, everybody loses respect for you. What are you
Yeah,
trying to accomplish with that? And I'm like, what are you doing? You gotta fight back. And she's like, no, no, it's okay. It's like, no, it's not okay. It's
not
not
okay.
okay.
And you know what? It's a mirror by them. I noticed this about Bart Clay, especially Bart K or whatever his name, he's very hard to like. Yeah, very hard
He
to
has
like. And
issues. Yes.
everybody that they put on their show
Yes.
is somebody that they can bully. He never goes against a Lane Norton or a Jay Feldman or somebody that can debunk his ass, right? And
Exactly.
never.
Or
They-
sue them, you know,
yeah. And
because they also sense whether that person is about to sue them or not, or somebody they can bully and they're never gonna get hit with a lawsuit.
I never thought about it that way. Plus, here's the thing,
Defamation is a criminal, it's a criminal act, and they should be sued for that.
and it's a mirror. I mean, you do not attack somebody else if you love yourself. I mean, it's a mirror. Like
Exactly.
the second that you point out something that you disagree with somebody about, or you don't like about somebody else, or you are putting them down, it's merely a reflection of something that's wrong with your own self-esteem when you look in the mirror. It becomes a mirror. And I talk when we go back to talking about insulin.
Yeah.
The reason that I got attacked by Dr. Chafee is because he was talking about how insulin's the enemy, right? And I'm with you. I used to preach it all the time. Don't ever eat a piece of fruit or starch by itself because you're going to spike your insulin. And when insulin's elevated, your body can't burn fat. And insulin does block lipolysis. It does block lipolysis. It will slow it down. But if you take two groups of dieters, and one group gets injected with insulin and the other doesn't, all things are equal, they lose the same amount of weight. And insulin spikes can actually be desirable in certain instances, like I was talking about post-workout. And of course, insulin's very anabolic, so it's very muscle sparing. Now, it is a
Exactly.
storage hormone, but that could be good if you're storing glycogen in muscle and liver tissue. But it can also be bad at times if you're storing more fat. But if you're keeping your fats lower in your higher carb meals, there's really no fat in your bloodstream to store,
If
right?
there's a
So,
calorie deficit there,
right, you're
it's the
good.
calorie deficit, right? Insulin only will make you gain weight and store fat in the context of a caloric surplus. That's it. It's
Yeah,
very
right.
simple. As a matter of fact, I mean, again, like I've had carnivores that have no carb ingestion whatsoever. So generally speaking, insulin, especially in the initial phase, insulin is pretty low, and they're gaining weight. It's the calorie
It's
excess.
the extra calories.
That's it.
Exactly. Yeah,
Exactly.
I know.
So
Yes.
so so out of the blue you got attacked, like just because.
Yeah, well, what happened was I was admitting I was wrong. That's the,
Right.
unlike they don't do that. It's just not in their wheelhouse. And let's be clear. I mean, I'm not saying it's money, but follow the money. I mean,
Mm,
if all of a sudden you're a keto guy and you're making millions of dollars, or a carnivore person, you're making millions of dollars every year off of this, and the script flips, and now
uh-huh.
carbs are not the enemy anymore, what's at stake for you? Your livelihood. And so
Interesting.
you've built your foundation on sand. And this is why I've never been anti-carnivore, anti-keto. I'm anti-diet. Like I said, the first three letters of the word diet, because I'm anti-cult. That's what I am.
Yeah.
Because again, it's all about some person's starting point and understanding that, hey, this is where, like, I have a buddy, he's lost the same 20 pounds 20 times. Okay. And when he saw me sugar fasting, he saw I was eating 750 to 800 grams of carbs every third day, and I got ripped for a photo shoot doing it. Okay.
Wow.
Now I isolated that sugar. It's an advanced technique that I don't recommend to people unless the
Yeah.
person's more experienced like me and they're in a position where they can do it.
Yes.
Um, but when he saw that, he was blown away because he is convinced that carbs make him fat. And he's like, dude, I've lost so much weight and I feel so much better when I don't eat carbs. And I specifically looked right at him. I'm like, Joe, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Right. But it's going to break. That's what I told him. It's going to break.
Eventually. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And when it breaks, we'll talk. I said, so just keep doing what you're doing right now, but it is going to break, bro. And once it breaks, we're going to need to talk. And so I haven't heard from him, but the last time I saw him, I could see the pounds were coming back on again. And this is what happens with this type of approach, because the longest way is a shortcut. You got to take a lifestyle approach.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's like the simplicity of the message is so attractive to people. It's like, I don't have to care about calories. I don't have to track. I don't have to work out. All I have to do is just one thing, just not eat carbs or just eat meat. You know, it's so simple. And I can see why it gains mass appeal. But
Well, everybody wants the boogeyman in a cave, right? Like everybody's like they what like they it's easy like everybody wants to throw rocks at an enemy. Carbs are very easy to do that with.
right.
But I think that these keto and carnivore guys are kind of shaking in their boots right now because they're seeing the sugar diet buzzing around like a mosquito on YouTube. I mean, I had a couple videos go viral on the sugar diet.
Mm,
And what I love about the sugar diet, I'm not like, again, I don't recommend or advocate it, but I did get blood work done after doing it for 10 weeks and it was incredible. My blood work was fine. But it ends up being a stressor. But
Yeah.
the good thing is I think it's going to help carbs make a comeback, a well-deserved comeback. And it's
Yeah.
going to help people feel better. Listen, you can lose all the weight you want, is it fat? And if you're walking around like a bag of bones and you're skinny, how do you feel? Like and so I'll just share an example of my photo shoots. So for every photo shoot I've done in the past, I carb cycle, and then when I get to the end, I lowered the carbs because I want to deplete the glycogen out. I want to get fully depleted. And then I'm going to carb load the day before and just fill up my muscles with glycogen to get pumped for the photo shoot, right?
Right.
Because when you're shredded and vascular like that, you can only hold that peak moment for a day or two at most, right? You
Right.
can't look like that year round. You get the photo shoot done. But what would happen is when I would deplete those carbs, I'd feel like shit. And I wouldn't get a pump in my workouts, but I white knuckled my way through it. Because people ask, well, dude, how do you do that? I'm like, you're hungry. And
It's
you suffer.
miserable. I know, I
You
know, I
suffer,
know.
right?
It's
So
true.
this photo shoot I
True.
just did about 10 weeks ago, and I look better than ever at 54. And
Yeah.
I say that humbly, okay? But I did, and people said, dude, you've never
Hey.
looked. People are like, what are you doing, dude? What are you taking? Sugar. It was sugar.
Right,
It
right,
was the
right.
sugar. I was every third or fourth day, I was eating 750 to 800 grams of isolated sugar in the form of
Mm,
fruit, maple syrup, honey, and then I would use raw cane sugar. I would dump it over top of my fruit bowls.
yeah.
And then at night, I would move to white rice, sourdough bread, and jelly and stuff like that.
Right.
And and what happens is there's a metabolic effect when you isolate sugar. Number one, there's no fat present. So if you're on the leaner side, the last thing you have to worry about is a fatty liver.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is when you isolate sugar, in the absence of fat and protein, again, advanced technique that I don't necessarily recommend anybody do, but it goes to prove the point that sugar
Right.
is not the enemy, right? You skyrocket T4 to T3 conversion
Mm-hmm.
because you're pouring all this glucose on your liver and you need glycoproteins from glucose to convert T4 to T3. You skyrocket ATP through mitochondrial uncoupling. And then, of course, you light up FGF21, which is a fibroblast hormone that has been shown to acutely be very anti-inflammatory and boost metabolic rate 18 to 23%. And so
Yep.
that's what happens when you isolate sugar in the absence of fat and protein. Again, not something I recommend, but helping carbs make a comeback, proving carbs are not the enemy, and understanding that our bodies do burn cleaner on glucose than they do fatty acids.
And at the end of the day, you're more shredded than all of the carnivores.
That's the other thing. They all have dad bods. Ken Dad Bod Berry. I mean, come on. All of them have dad bods. I know. I'm just like, why do you like? They all look soft. Just saying.
Yeah.
It's just an
Yeah, and
observation.
and
I'm
they
not.
and like you know what? And they cannot for the life of them post a shirtless photo that was taken this morning, whereas you can. My
I can.
husband
Yes.
can.
Right.
The people that understand that carbs are fuel, Coach Al Reeves, I've interviewed him. He can post from this morning, not a shirtless photo or video from years ago. It's like, why is it the same one? What's
Right.
happening, And it's
Exactly.
like it's just when you bully other people and you go after them and you're being so negative and argumentative, at the very least, you should have a solid foundation so that you can handle the lashback because it's just so easy to see that you guys are not really shredded.
Yeah. When Dr. Chafee came at me, it was because I said to him, I said, it's okay, Doc. Insulin's not the enemy. I used to think it was too, and I was wrong. It's okay to admit you're wrong. And he got pissed.
Oh,
Right?
I
Because he
see.
doesn't want to admit he's wrong. I've
Yeah.
admitted. I mean, you can go back to old videos of mine on YouTube, and a lot of them I've deleted or unlisted only to optimize my YouTube channel, not to hide. Like I'm
Right.
actually getting ready to do a video what I was wrong about
Yeah,
and
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
how I used to be all about. I used to eat 6, 7 small meals a day. It can work, but who wants to do that? I mean, it's
Right.
cumbersome. It's a freaking part-time job for gosh sakes, right? So, and I used to believe that insulin was completely the enemy and the storage hormone, and it made us fat, right? And so there's all these things that, I used to believe never eat carbs after 5 p.m. Research shows that late night carb eaters not only lose more weight, they have better daytime hormone profiles and they sleep better because you suppress cortisol and you lift up serotonin and melatonin. And when I started sugar fasting before my photo shoot, we started doing lean protein at night and backloading on clean starches and keeping the fats in the basement. And it was a game changer because our calorie count just went down. And like I mentioned earlier, the food volume, you could just eat so much more food because of only
Right.
yielding 4 calories a gram versus 9. And she started sleeping so much better and losing weight, eating white
Mhm.
rice and potatoes almost every night.
Yeah, I mean, I same, likewise.
Mhm.
It just, and then you get into this phase where you're so mad at yourself. It's like a whole decade of me fearing carbs when had I done what I have done lately, I could have had this physique, this much shredded physique, even more muscle, and more importantly, the higher income, the higher productivity, the higher energy, the greater levels of baseline dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, what I like to call the Adderall effect. I could have been enjoying this for a decade. And it's just, it's so, you go through a phase where you're angry at yourself, but you know, at the very least, at least we're evolving, whereas some other people are just, it takes them so much longer to evolve.
Well, and sometimes you don't realize how shitty you feel until you don't feel shitty anymore.
Exactly.
But regardless of how great you look in the mirror, if you feel like ass, who cares? Like you want to feel good. And, having a balanced diet, like 40-30-30 zone, perfect example.
Right.
I'm not a fan of that because I think you work against your body's systems when you have that much carbs and fats together at the same
Unless you're
time.
doing cardio, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm
Well, it can
doing
work
all
too.
the stuff because yeah, I'm doing the cardio and because so what I talk so much about is climbing the ladder of the Adderall effect, raising your baseline dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin. And the only way you can do that, that trifecta, to feel as if your brain runs naturally on Adderall without the downregulation that happens if you actually take an external drug like
I
Adderall. So
love this analogy. Go ahead, continue.
exactly. And so this is what I obsess over because I just realized that this is the foundation for everything. This is the foundation for life, for success in every single area, for your income, productivity, happiness, better gut health, better everything. And so to be able to achieve that, you need that trifecta. This is what an Adderall pill does. It raises baseline dopamine, norepinephrine, but also serotonin. If you only lift weights, you raise baseline dopamine and norepinephrine, but not really serotonin because only time under tension is what upregulates the tone or the baseline level of serotonin. And you need that trifecta to feel limitless, kind of like the movie with Bradley Cooper and
Mhm.
Limitless. You need the serotonin as well in proper proportion to the dopamine and norepinephrine. So this is why I run on top of lifting because that is what's giving me the Adderall effect. That at every new milestone, at every new PR that I hit, at every higher level on the ladder of the Adderall effect, I make more money. I have more happiness. I lean out even more. It's like, and my metabolism and my thyroid is supercharged. This is how I can eat 3,200 calories a day just to maintain my weight.
Yeah, I love it. And I think you feel so much better overall in general, right?
It's
So
amazing. It's like you're high all the time. It's like you're doing lines of coke, but there's no downside. There's no destruction of your brain the way drugs do, right? Because
yeah.
if you were to take cocaine or if you were to take Adderall pills and rely on that to feel this way, it's such a short-term effect and very quickly there's a drop, right? Because your brain reacts to that. It's not a natural way to do this. So let's build it the right way. Let's still feel this high, but do it the right way, the healthy way. You
So
become unstoppable.
are you
Yeah.
doing high intensity cardio with steady state, combinations of both? How do you do it? Because I have a lot to say on that topic. I know we're getting long here. I won't go too deep down the rabbit hole, but just curious.
Everything. My
Yeah.
goal is so my goal is in 1 year, and I'm not saying that everybody needs to do that, but I want to become a billionaire, and so I need to be able to perform at that level. And so my goal is in 1 year to be able to run 10 miles per hour in 1 hour, sustained.
That's that's
Which is
insane.
actually, I watch all of these and I follow all these Olympians and, they're running at 13, 14, 15 miles per hour. Like, I don't know about 15 miles per hour, but 13, 14 miles per hour sustained for hours. This is how Eliud Kipchoge just broke the under 2 hour marathon, the first human to do that. That's the pace they're running. So it's like very possible. You just have to train for it. And so for me, yeah, I do lots of miles, and those miles keep getting faster, and like the speed keeps getting higher and higher. You want both. You want the high intensity. You also want the time under tension.
Yeah. So a lot of fitness pros will talk about zone two cardio, and I think it's beneficial. And it's when your body's going to use more fat during the workout, where with HIIT, it's going to burn more of the fat and calories of the other 23 hours of the day. But at the end of the day, you need them both, in my opinion.
Both.
Um,
Because the hit
So
is what's gonna allow my steady state cardio to get faster over time. The hit is
yeah,
what's
they
gonna
feed each other for
they feed
sure.
each other, and
Yeah.
but you also need the steady state ones that are not, because you can't I can't do hit for 7 miles straight, right? I can only
No.
do hit, right?
Right.
But I also need the mileage to upregulate my baseline serotonin, and
Yeah, makes sense.
right, so I need both, and also you to be able to recover from the hit sessions, especially as they get faster and faster and faster as the months go by, to be able to recover fast and fast enough, you need a very strong mitochondrial base, and that can only be done with your longer runs, you see?
Interesting. And the thing is when you start getting that burn in your lungs or that lactate um, firing, because when you do higher rep sets of weights, for example, or you do a high intensity interval, 30 to 60 seconds. So, I mean, if it's going to be a true hit sprint, it's going to be 20, 30 seconds, right? You're going to start slowing down after that.
Exactly.
But when you feel that burn in your lungs or you're in a high rep weight training set and you feel that burn, they used to think that was a waste product, lactate. Well, now they've discovered the lactate shuttle. And so this lactic acid actually shuttles in the form of lactate to brain and heart tissue. It crosses the blood-brain barrier and enters the heart and actually sheds off old mitochondria and creates something called mitochondrial biogenesis. So a lot of these fitness pros will preach zone two, zone two, zone two. And I don't disagree with zone two. I love it because I can get work done while I'm doing it, or I can read a book or whatever I want to do, or hit, is harder. But it's also necessary because sometimes the goal just isn't about fat loss. It's about anti-aging and living longer, right? And when we do this, they actually did the 4x4 Norwegian protocol where they had men in between 50 and 55 do, I believe it was 2 to 3 sessions per week, where they would do 4 minutes in zone two, 4 minutes really hard, four
Yep.
minutes zone two, 4 minutes really hard. I think it was 24 months later, their heart had aged backwards. The left ventricle of their heart had aged backwards over 5 years.
I believe it. The fine line. I'm 38 years old. I still don't have any wrinkles whatsoever. It looks like barely anything. And I've noticed such a massive improvement this year because of the running. And I was telling my hubby not that long ago, I was like, oh my God, how do you look? Like, I swear, I see an 80% reversal in the fine lines. And since now I'm focused more on also growing my base, so that more of the introducing a long run once a week, that's a lower intensity to boost my ability to recover so I can hit those HIIT at higher levels and recover faster. I swear, just Sunday, I came home like, oh my gosh, you will not believe this. I feel like it's even more than that. It's like 90% reversal of fine lines. I need
Hilarious.
to, yeah, and I've read studies on that. I need to really post more content on how just powerful exercise is, especially cardio and mitochondrial, improving your mitochondrial density and health and efficiency with the cardio, how powerful it is in literally reversing every single tissue aging, biological aging.
And you know what else too, what you're saying, I love what you're saying because think about what people do to get rid of those fine lines. It's always a cream, a potion or a lotion, right?
Botox and neurotoxin.
Right. Plastic surgery,
Yeah.
instead of it's always an outside in approach versus an inside out approach. And
Right.
so I gotta, I gotta look at this. I
And
posted it
you
yesterday.
know, I'm not like, I was already at the beginning in 2025 where I was really carnivoring the hardest, really starting to say, okay, I'm 38, maybe it's time to start doing Botox, some baby Botox, just a little bit, because you're on camera the whole time, and when you sometimes you use a filter versus when you don't use a filter, you get used to the filter look. Like, I want to look like the filter look 24/7, and you can do that with just a little bit of baby Botox. I'm like, I want to do that, and now I don't think I'm ever gonna need to do that because I'm there. I'm like 90% there. It's like insane.
Well, and the thing is the pain that you endure to see less wrinkles is what creates the reward. If you're just using Botox, you never endured any pain to appreciate it,
Right? And you're
right?
paralyzing a muscle. My
Right.
PhD isn't exercise physiology, right? It's exercise physiology and nutrition. But when you learn everything about muscle and strengthening the muscle, what does Botox do? It paralyzes the muscle. So now you're dependent on it for life. So if there is anything I could do to prevent the need for Botox, or at least delay it as much as humanly possible, I'm going to do that. Because why would I want to paralyze a muscle? And what's going to happen if you don't get a touch up in the Botox in the next few months? Now, those few months, that muscle did not get any exercise whatsoever. It changes the way your face looks, you know?
Yeah. Well, and this goes back to, we could go down a rabbit hole on GLP-1s and how people's face becomes sunken in because they're losing
Oh yeah.
muscle in their face, right?
Yeah, and worse, it slows down gut motility. And so many people who get on GLP-1 already have SIBO and dysbiosis and leaky gut. And now it's getting worse because gut motility is slowed down from those drugs. Whereas
Yeah.
if you do it with a cardio, it actually speeds up gut motility. Just
Right. And
saying.
it goes back to, people want to put a Band-Aid on their broken bone. At the end of the day, you have to take an inside out approach. It's not here. Listen, the way that you look naked, it's the number one reflection of your choices every day. You can deny it all you want, or you can say that's vanity, or, all you care about is how people look, but
I
it's the
never
truth.
understood the word vanity. What does vanity mean? It means that beauty is something bad? Looking good is how is that bad? It's a reflection of your reproductive health. It's a reflection of your discipline. It's a reflection of how much muscle mass you have. How is beauty bad? It is the beauty and art is the epitome of why we do everything. Like, why would we want to cure cancer and why would we want to live healthier? To appreciate art. It
Yeah.
makes like it's so backwards to me.
I love
Anybody who
that.
thinks any even like an iota of negativity or like vanity, even the word should not exist.
Well, and here's what you have to understand. Looking great naked's the bonus side effect. It's who you become during the process. I mean, when I did Body for Life in 98, this is why I fell in love with fitness. When I was done with that contest, I had six-pack abs for the first time in my life, but that was just the bonus side effect. I had joint legal custody rights of my daughter I'd been fighting for 3 years. I paid off all my debts. I had brand new friends in my life. I landed a brand new career. I was being featured on ESPN. You know, 90 days before that, I was up till the sun came up every weekend playing Texas Hold'em, snorting coke with my buddies. Right? It's a little bit different life after, right? And so it's not just about how you look; it's the person you become during the process. And so I think people they forget about that. It's character development. It's the pain that you endure and the sacrifice that you endure to get to that look. That's what really happens is character development and becoming a better human.
Wow. Wow, I love that so freaking much. And that's the thing. People think that there's a hack. Trust me, I've searched for hacks all my life. I tried really hard at all the supplements, all the testing, all the diets, right?
Oh, I'm
And
guilty.
eventually, you too, right? And we try as much as possible. And the thing is, the more education and the more intelligence you have, it's even worse because now you can science your way and try to come up with even more things that you could potentially do, right? And I think hopefully now people are realizing, especially with the carnivore, because it was like the ultimate hack. Keto
Right.
didn't work. Let's do carnivore, and then people are realizing there is no hack, there is no
There
shortcut.
is no shortcuts. Yeah, there is no.
Exactly. You got yeah.
Awesome. Anything else you want to cover today? We
Yeah,
went
I
for a
think
while.
it's a great time to end it.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
we should
ending it
do
with core
another.
desires, right? The person that you can become through this process. And again, this comes back to take a lifestyle approach. Don't be afraid of carbs. Take an approach that you can use until you're 80, 90, 100 years old if you want.
Exactly, exactly. Where can people find you, connect with you, and potentially work with you? And I'll make sure also I post all your social in the description box below this video.
No problem. Ripgrandpa.com. Just go to ripgrandpa.com and you'll redirect and then all my social handles are either Rip Grandpa, Real Rip Grandpa on Instagram or The Rip Grandpa on YouTube. And now I do have a registered trademark for that. So if you see another fake Rip Grandpa, it's not me.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much. This has been so awesome. We definitely need a round two soon.
For
Um,
sure.
Thank you, Shaun. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us till the end. If you enjoyed this kind of content, let me know by giving this YouTube video a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell icon so YouTube alerts you every time I post a new video. And share it with your friends and family members who might benefit from such an inspiring guest. And thank you all. And I will see you in the next one.
Thank you.